Hi everyone and welcome to our next video. Like we said at the end of the last one, we're going to explore if we can refactor our model that we have so far towards a place where we give station more responsibility and ride a little bit less. The basic idea we have so far is that when everything of the ride is set up, that we then can pass on the responsibility of actually executing the ride to the station. Let's see what we need to change for that and if it actually works or not.
All right. So first thing we did here is we actually made it a bit more specific. So I'm gonna copy this over to get more specific info inside there. Lots of arrows. So I'm gonna do a bit differently. Okay, so we said actually we're going to say reserve a bike at the station. We're going to give it a station, and then what we get out of it is a reservation ID. Okay. And then the ride starts as we were going to switch the order. Correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but we kind of have to first pull start ride out of here a bit.
Wait, now you lost me. I thought,
No,
yeah, no, go ahead, but I'll see what you do, but I'm a little bit lost, but go ahead.
it could be I'm completely wrong as well because they're yeah, no, you're right. So we still just start the ride. I was working here already.
Yeah, the thing is, so
Yeah.
hey, the my main idea was okay, we first have the rider starting the ride on their phone, and then they walk over to the station. Hey, that's this thing. Maybe I need to find a sticker that says walking. I don't know if I can find an emoji walking. We're actually running towards the station. Well, no, walking is better. We're walking towards the station, and when we arrive at
Yeah.
the station, yeah, the station still generates the token. It's well, and it shows a QR code. But that's
Yeah.
after this, we're going to have to look at changing things.
Yes. So the question is, does the ride still, scan the token here? Does that change?
How, what I'm thinking is that I'm not sure if it's going to work or not, but my idea currently is like you said in the previous version, it looks like Ride could be like the UI or the app. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's completely correct, but I do agree that at least the app will communicate with Ride mostly. So I'm wondering if we could take the idea that everything that requires user interaction is the responsibility of Ride,
Yeah.
and if it isn't, like if it just like in the station, well, you scan the scanning that's needs to go to Ride, but after that you're picking up the bike and you're putting the bike back, so there is no interaction there. So that part feels like something we could completely be managed by a station, but where we need the interaction, I'm inclined to say that that's still something Ride needs to be concerned about.
Yes. Then we said, is this token valid? And we didn't really know who was going to do that. Let me have we still haven't really determined that. Could that be, could it be that the station, so we said station hardware,
No.
let's make that explicit, um, sort of talks to the, and then we had a normal station, which is the software of this thing. I don't have the right color.
I'll make it
in my palette. Thank you. So I think like something that
I'll
will
move some
happen.
stuff around.
Yeah. Is that we say, well, actually, the station is going to do that. So was displayed. So eventually we said ride is everything that needs user interaction, and scan the QR is still a user interaction. But then validating. So is token valid going to the station, and that QR code was displayed also goes to the station? Maybe we could, sort of refactor this so that we don't need to do that, like that nobody needs to know that this QR code was displayed, and that we can keep that just internal. So I'll quickly change that here. So what we can do is actually design an algorithm where we actually generate the code, and that then we actually scan the QR code, but it's more of a decoding sort of thing. And then we don't need to ask anyone if this is valid.
Yeah. So the basic
So we'll do,
so the basic idea is the station generates like a token with, hey, this is like the timestamp and this is the station, and then it encrypts it and
yeah,
transforms that into QR code, and then anyone who has the key can decrypt it and check what information is on that QR code.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. So when we have so station and timestamp decoded,
Yeah. Yeah, so when
and
the app scans it,
you
we
know,
say to the right, yeah, decode. Well, the first thing we scan it, we try to decode it. If we're able to decode it, we can also validate it, and we know.
yeah,
Well,
and then
basically, at
yeah,
that's the same thing. We know that it's
yeah,
valid.
yeah.
So if it's valid, we both have decoded it, and we prove that we're at the station.
Then we don't need that query anymore. We actually also don't need this one anymore.
Yeah.
Because then we said, well, now the station,
Yeah, we had the handle right. We in our
yeah,
the idea was now we do handle right, and maybe let's copy that over from
yeah,
from
what we
here.
already had.
I'll copy that over.
Voila.
That
And
was
all of this
yeah
can go. We had the handle. Yeah, we can actually delete that one as well, and we just have to push that new design in there, where we say, okay, do this, and then we actually just call bike availability again. Quickly, I'm going to do something which is also add the right name
yeah.
here for clarity.
I'll just add a note here. There is one thing I don't. I'm not sure I like it or dislike it. It's just an observation. Now we have two different bounded contexts talking to bike availability, which is not an issue. That's something that happens often. I'm just that's maybe something we need to look into. But I'm not sure. It's just an observation, so I'll write it down. Okay.
All right. That we say we need to check that reservation. Right? Is it valid or not? So two things we can is that it was valid or it was not valid.
Yeah,
If the reservation.
yeah, if it's not valid, well, let's see what we need to do there. But I think, what did you move now? If it's not valid,
Way too much.
if it's not valid, it's basically back over to the right. We're not able to do anything. Like we received a reservation and it's not valid, and so that's something we definitely don't want in this point in the flow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Back to right. I'll also add that lovely review icon.
Yeah.
Because we're just gonna focus on how station and all that changes.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I think next we have a copy of what we already had. So I can delete this now because that was everything else. I'm gonna bring this a bit closer to see how it changed. If it says station cannot be unlocked, then we also went back to the right. That would be
that's not, in this case, it's not true. If we cannot unlock the bike as a station, we can still decide to try to unlock another one if there is one available. And this is actually one of the advantages of only communicating with the station, is that we don't have to go back to the right. We only need to go back to the right if there is no bike available anymore. At that point, as a station, we say we cannot continue. We failed. Back to right. But as long as we can still handle it, I think as a station we should try to just fix it.
Yes. So that the station cannot unlock bike. Would you say it communicates back to the software?
Yeah, it needs to. Yeah, it needs to communicate back to the software. Right? That is. But the way I see it, this one, well, the way we implement it here is, of course, well, it's command and two events. The way I see it with in software is that this is probably just an API call, and the API call will return a 200 OK or probably a 500 something if it fails. Yeah.
Yes. So then we go to the station, and we actually don't get right here anymore. I'm just like going a bit back to see how it originally was.
Can we first go through the happy path just and ignore the station cannot unlock the bike yet? Because that's one is a lot simpler. So basically it means we can move all of this down. I'll do that. I'll move this down. And we get into, well, rider picked up the bike. And yeah, then it's back to the station, I guess.
Yep.
I'll see if we need to move some things in. that probably also needs to get a bit closer. And I'll move these things out of the way as well.
Yeah. Okie dokie.
Yeah, maybe we can just delete it like this, and it's more like after a while it's the station that detects that the rider picked up their bike, and it's probably so it's the station hardware that detects that and communicates that to our station bounded context. And we also had the notification what happens when the bike is never picked up. That's something that it's not the hardware that's going to pick that up, but it's the software, on our bounded context. Yeah.
Okay. And then again, time goes by. I'll give an indication of that here again. And then bike is returned to station.
Yeah. Which also is something the hardware just detects.
Yes. And the software will get notified. I'm gonna make this a bit smaller. I don't fully like that shape. Makes it a bit difficult
Yeah, I
to
know. It's
too much, but it's okay.
I'll delete the end here, eh? That's out of scope for our exercise, I think. Here we said we had a design choice where we said we're going to make the hardware of the station as simple as possible. The software that runs on the hardware as simple as possible. Here though we put some logic, yeah. Here we're adding logic that says when a bike is put in the station, we're locking it. I'm not sure it's a bad thing, eh? It's not that hard, and it feels like something that might be okay. But that's something we could also like split up where we notify the station bounded context that a bike was returned, and that station then says to the hardware, okay, you can lock it. I think it's not a bad idea because it gives us more flexibility. If we ever need to change that, for example, if we want to not lock it immediately, then we have that option. So I'll change that here. I'll duplicate it, and no, I'll just do it in. So the hardware sees it was returned. The station listens to it. Then the station says lock it. The hardware says it locked or it wasn't locked. And the station then can stop the ride. If everything happened correctly, if it didn't happen correctly, it's still something, still something to decide.
Yes.
Okay, but that looks okay. So I would say for the happy part, it looks okay. So we have we have the hardware here in between, but that's something we cannot avoid. That's just how the flow works. We walk over and we need to scan, we need to interact with the hardware to show that QR code, but that's completely separated from everything else. And then when we receive, when the app scans it and the right backend receives that QR code, we try to decode it. We see, okay, hey, we received actually a valid QR code for the correct station. So now it's up to the We know that person is there. We know that they started a ride because we're the ride bounded context. We have all the information for that. And now we can basically send that over to the station. And then it's completely up to the station, no interaction whatsoever with the app. Well, in the happy part, and at the end, they can stop a ride. So this feels okay to me. I'd say that this one here is not great. And we also, I also put that note, and in the previous session, we also said we could say that the station could make the assumption that the reservation is valid by the ride would need to do that, would need to validate it. And if we change that, this here becomes actually easier as well. So let me duplicate that. So if we would change it, if we would change this like this, I think it's going to become a bit simpler. Like this, like this, like this, and this would still be right. Because now if the reservation is not valid, well, we're still in the context of right, so we can do something about it. So I would say that one actually disappears, and then it's up to station. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that makes more sense.
Yeah. Now I said I was going to duplicate it, and I moved stuff and duplicated other stuff. So I'll make sure I'll duplicate again. So, but that is how I would probably, this one would be my preferred approach. Yeah, so let's say we pick this one.
Yeah. Also because up until now, Ride had not, station had not spoken to bike availability for station, and now it does, which is okay. But here we sort of ignored the not happy path.
Definitely need to look at the unhappy part, because that's where the complexity comes in.
Okay.
I'll
so then, yeah.
No, I was going to say, so we decided this. The unhappy part is going to start from here. Cannot unlock the bike.
Yeah.
That's the first spot where we. I would say, Heen, that maybe we don't need to put all of that back in and just model it again, because it's going to change quite a bit. So let's move this completely out of the way. So what do we do when a station cannot unlock a bike?
If a station cannot unlock a bike, we need to select.
Yeah, we can. Yeah. Is there? So what we want to see? Do we have another bike?
Yeah.
If yes, then unlock that one. If no, we give up. Meaning station gives up. Yeah. We cannot do anything more than that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have another bike? Basically, what we will have here is select other bike, and then we'll have to ask, do we have another one?
Yeah.
And if we do, we will say I was wondering if I needed to move no, but we still have the selected bike X again. If no, then basically we say
we also, yeah, mark log as broken. We need to make sure that
yeah.
we don't do anything with that, and I'll just add it as in the so the maintenance internally, but that it's not available anymore.
So now we could do two things.
Wait,
I think.
why are you putting the reserve? Ah, yeah. Okay, you're going to reserve that bike.
Right? Because that, no. So the idea is we did select a new bike, we unlocked it, and that all goes faster for the rider, which is a very positive thing. But bike availability doesn't have a reserve on this new bike that we just gave away.
But bike
So we
availability didn't know about that specific bike. Bike availability only knew I reserved the bike at that station. So I do agree we need to do something with bike availability.
yeah.
Because we're basically we're reserving a second one. We're basically saying the one reservation you had, that's not an available bike anymore.
Yeah. So we don't say reserved bike X, we just we don't want to say reserve bike.
No.
We want to say you have one less.
Yeah.
How would you
remove bike?
That? Yeah.
But I'm starting to think that that the bike availability and the reservation, how are we going to keep those models in sync and stuff like that? It feels like something that's not going to be trivial to keep in sync. Because it's not just that we remove one bike, we also need to mark, we want to remove an extra bike, or we want to say, basically what we need to say to the bike reservation is, well, we got a reservation, but that didn't work out. So we just picked another one. Meaning you now have, instead of, let's say you had 5 bikes, we did a reservation, you only have 4 bikes available at that station. That's not correct. There are only 3 bikes available at that station. So, yeah. We can try it like this. Let's try it like this.
I understand what you mean.
Maybe yeah, set availability or adjust availability so that we set, hey, this is the new availability.
Yeah. And we do that for a state, like we say, okay, in this station you have 3, and like overwrite that, whatever the hell you have in your system, this is now the correct availability.
Yeah, but that's going to break down when we also take maintenance and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but we can go with that for now. We definitely need to review that.
Because the system will fail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we have another one, we select another one. If not, we could not select another one, and then we let's say we give up. Back to right. I'll just mark it like this, but that's something we can figure out later. Then if we're saying adjust availability, I guess we have an always in there, because if bike availability can ignore that, we have an issue.
Yeah.
Availability adjusted. Okay. And if that's the case, we can just continue with the unlocking again.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, yeah, sorry, I'm still on the bike availability.
Yeah.
It's more of like a check-in and a check-out that you sort of do, which will pull from different things, like from maintenance, from purchase when you add an extra bike, from the scheduling teams when they start moving bikes around. So basically, all that availability for stations is going to do is like check this, check one in, check one out,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a better way to look at it, and
True.
not really say, yeah.
But the and I completely agree. The only thing I would say is that here that the bike availability in what you're saying, check one in, check one out. Checking one out, that's something a bike availability needs to check if it's possible. And here we're saying, yeah, but don't check if it's possible.
Yeah.
We are saying it's possible.
Yeah.
Which means that, for example, let's say bike availability. I'll try to draw it because let's figure out if we can find some scenarios. So
Good solution. Yeah.
let's say we have a station. That's our station. And now I'm going to draw a bike in there. So we have one bike and we have another one. The second bike, it's already simpler. And
The second bike is clearly broken because it
yeah.
has
So
no steer.
let's say we have this situation, and
Yeah.
now we are going to mark this one. We do a reservation, so we're marking this one as reserved.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bit later, like you're saying, maintenance marks this one as broken.
Yeah.
Now, when as the station, we're making a hey, we're saying, hey, select another one, and we want to adjust it. We're going to try to pick this one.
Mm-hmm.
And that one isn't allowed
Because
because
it's broken.
it's broken, and we already know it's broken. So what I see here is that the select another bike, we cannot do that first. We
Mm-hmm.
we basically need to say, hey, I want to create another reservation and see if that works. So if we hand out the responsibility to the bike availability, then that one can say, okay, hey, that's one I still have available. And
Mm-hmm.
and then we can select it. The yeah. I think we need to, if we want to look at it, we need to
Yeah.
model it in
Take-
more detail.
yeah. And we need to model a bit more maintenance as well, which we have hugely
Yeah,
ignored up until now.
yeah,
And we need to see how those three would communicate with one another. But I think if we just sort of want to continue with what we have here, we know that Royd will probably, like, we don't want Royd to be involved anymore
mm-hmm.
here. So that sort of makes it clear. When we added the review, we know this is not good
Yeah,
because, we haven't thought about maintenance or scheduling and all that
yeah,
kind of stuff. And there are a lot of things that actually pull on that availability. So we need to dig deeper. But for understanding Royd, I think this is okay,
yeah.
right?
I definitely agree. The only thing I thought about right now is when we didn't remove the reservation in our happy path. So in the happy path, when the hey, when we stop, we didn't say, hey, that reservation is now done.
Yeah.
But I think so. I'll add it as a note here because we're going to get into the same kind of things.
Yeah.
What I mean is, yeah, we need to remove the reservation. But the reason I'm saying we're going to get into the same things is it's not because we remove the reservation that the bike is necessarily immediately available again. It's possible
Yeah.
that the charge is too low and that we don't want to make it available just yet. So we also need to look at that, and I think we need to model the whole concept of what is bike availability. What does
Yeah.
that mean exactly, and who should be responsible? I think we need to model that in more detail, and maybe that's also, yeah, maybe at that point we can look at some example mapping or yeah,
Yep.
to try to figure out what are the examples when something is available or not.
Yeah. Seems like a good thing to do for the next episode.
Yeah.
Example mapping.
Okay, that seems fine. So yeah, we as a conclusion, I think we improved our model. We validated that it could work, but we also discovered an actual issue. Well, not an issue. We're discovering that bike availability is something we need to model more. It was the same issue in the other model as well, but we ignored it a little bit. I agree we're not completely done with the remodeling, not just for bike availability, but also the giving up. We would need to go back to ride, but that feels like it feels like, yeah, that's just starting. It's not starting over, but it's, yeah, the ride then needs to select another station, needs to be selected. There's going to be interaction with the rider and decisions are going to be made. So that feels like a really separate flow that we can look at later maybe. But yeah, like you said, maybe in the next session, let's do some example mapping on what bike availability actually means and see if we can learn stuff from that, and then yeah, figure out a better model for it as well.
Yeah. But if you look at, we started with this big picture event storm, and the knowledge we have right now, and just understanding where the issues will be and where the difficulties will be, like that already increased so much in 3 hours, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, so something like that,
So
eh? And we definitely, we're not at a point where we can say, okay, we can start implementing with confidence. We could already start setting up some things where we're reasonably happy with. We discovered some principles that we want to keep. Maybe we need to make them more explicit in another session as well. But so we
yeah,
learned quite a lot. We also discovered that we still don't know everything, which is definitely normal, because like you said, in a couple of hours, discovering everything, that would be a bit far-fetched, I guess.
yeah. All right. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.